TH titled the video "A Signal from the Void" was answered by humanity's wrath. In the aftermath of humanity's devastating victory over the enigmatic oracles, Earth and its colonies grapple with the immense cost of survival. Dr. Lyra Kassan uncovers a chilling truth that the oracles were merely the last in a long line of cosmic trials, thrusting humanity into a new and uncertain phase. As mysterious signals from unknown civilizations begin to emerge across the galaxy, humanity faces a precarious choice: retreat into isolation or venture forth to confront the next great test. Meanwhile, the enigmatic Race 7, humanity's living weapon, reappears on a distant world, signaling the arrival of a new, more profound reckoning beyond the void. The void was never meant to speak. Beyond the halo of map space, where even black holes refuse to churn, the Aegis Nova coasted in silence. Its hull, obsidian black and layered in reactive alloys, absorbed the faint starlight like a ghost adrift in a sea of nothing. Here, beyond the reach of habitable systems and far past the trade beacons, there came a signal. Not a scream, not a cry, a rhythm, repeating, measured, artificial. Dr. Lyra Kassan sat alone in the communications chamber, her eyes locked on the waveform unraveling across a dozen crystalline displays. She didn't speak. Not at first. The pulse had started 23 hours ago, one that pierced through every encryption standard they knew. It arrived in prime number sequences, fractal distortions, and subharmonics that bent local space-time by infinitesimal degrees. It was elegant, intrusive, like someone gently tapping against a locked coffin. "It's not random," she whispered, finally. "Nothing that deep ever is," said Admiral Rourke, standing rigid by the reinforced viewport. His broad silhouette made the room feel smaller, more pressurized. He'd come with 6 security officers and a single order: confirm, then classify. Lyra didn't look away from the signal. It's recursive, a loop nested inside a loop. Every 5 hours, a pattern folds back on itself, and wait. Her fingers danced over the interface. It's changed. It's responding. One of the displays flickered. The waveform spiked and unfolded into new dimensions, patterns now eerily resembling ancient Terran glyphs. Coiled serpents, ice sigils, fragments of prehistory too obscure to have survived natural data evolution. Admiral Rourke stiffened. "Get Mercer in here." Commander Elian Mercer arrived seconds later, hair still damp from sleep, uniform half-fastened. His eyes locked on the screen, then on Lyra. "This real?" Lyra's voice was too calm. "I think it's mimicking us. Learning. Adapting the signal to what we can understand." She hesitated. "I also think it was waiting for someone to notice." "Then shut it down," Rourke said flatly. "No," she snapped. "This is contact. We send a signal to the stars for centuries. Then something finally answers, and you want to hang up?" "It's protocol," Rourke said, but even he didn't sound convinced. Mercer stepped between them. "What if it's not just answering? What if it's calling?" For a moment, no one spoke. Then the ship trembled, not from external impact, but from within. Systems glitched. Artificial gravity staggered. Lights dimmed. Lyra's console went dark, then rebooted with a single phrase etched across all terminals. "We heard you." Rourke drew a breath. "Power down comms. Seal the core." But outside the ship, just beyond sensor range, something rippled through the dark. The void itself shimmered, like a wound peeling open. A vessel emerged, not with engines or exhaust, but by unraveling space and stepping through. Biomechanical. Too fluid to be solid. Too precise to be alive. Its structure pulsed like a heartbeat. "No known signature," Mercer said, voice tight. "Not in any database. No registry, no emissions, no logic." Lyra stared at it with something between awe and terror. It didn't travel here. It unfolded into place. Like it was always here, and we just let it in. Rourke's voice cracked the spell. Shields up. Prime lances. The Aegis Nova lit with silent energy, plating humming with kinetic tension. The alien craft remained still. No weapons, no signals, until Lyra's console flickered again. A new phrase appeared, simpler this time. "We choose wrath." Before anyone could react, The alien ship fired. Not a beam, but a pulse of darkness, like a sphere of absolute silence. The blast struck one of the Aegis Nova's external satellites, vaporizing it instantly and tearing a micro-rift into surrounding space. The ship groaned under the stress. Internal systems scrambled, and the crew was thrown into chaos. "They're not trying to talk," Rourke growled, seizing the nearest comms channel. "They're making a statement." Mercer overrode manual targeting. "We're responding in kind." "No," Lyra said. "They wanted this. They sent the signal not to open dialogue, but to judge us. Then they'll find their judgment returned." Rourke said, "Humanity doesn't bow to riddles from shadows." The Aegis Nova returned fire. Quantum lances surged toward the alien vessel, but the energy curve bent and dissipated before impact, as if the laws of reality flexed around the enemy ship. Then, in an instant, it disappeared. No exit signature. No trace. As if it had never existed. Silence fell, but the signal didn't cease. If anything, it deepened, broadcasting now across human networks. Earth received it. So did Mars, Luna, and the orbital stations. Everywhere. People heard fragments, whispers in old languages, screams buried in static, lullabies twisted backward. Then came the images, projected across starside terminals and civilian feeds alike. Fractured worlds. Cities burned clean from planetary crusts. Human structures, replicas of Earth architecture, floating in void space. Anomalous planets with monoliths bearing Terran symbols. Humanity had never been there. Lyra fell back in her chair, pulse racing. "They're showing us futures. Or things that look like our futures. Maybe simulations. Maybe something worse." Mercer stood behind her, knuckles white. "Or they've already seen us fall, and they're just playing it back." Rourke issued a single order. "Inform Earth Command. Initiate full mobilization." And so began the war that would scar the stars. But in the silence that followed, Lyra couldn't stop hearing it. That endless pulse, not of alien hatred or conquest, but of something deeper. Expectation. ChatGPT said, "The war did not begin with declarations. It began with absences." In the weeks following the encounter, 27 listening posts across the galactic frontier went silent. No flares, no debris, no alerts. Just blank spaces where beacons once pulsed. The void was growing teeth. Admiral Rourke stood aboard the command carrier Vigilant Flame, staring into tactical holos strewn with red voids and vanishing green markers. He said nothing. He didn't need to. His officers, battle-hardened and emotionally spent, had already begun preparing for the next inevitability. The oracles, as they had come to be called from decoded segments of the alien broadcast, weren't advancing. They were pruning. Across human space, fleets mobilized. Old grievances between the Martian syndicates and Earth Union were suspended. Colonies long starved of resources received armed escorts. Shipyards in orbit over Ganymede ran without pause. AI-augmented architects drew up combat vessels that blurred the line between starship and weaponized thought. Rourke walked the length of the operations deck as Commander Elian Mercer approached, his uniform newly scorched from weapons testing. 12 more colonies just requested evacuation clearance, Mercer said, voice graveled and low. "We don't have the fleet to cover them all." Rourke's eyes didn't flinch. "Then we don't evacuate. We dig in." Mercer tensed. "They're civilians." "They're bait," Rourke said. "And if the oracles come, we'll give them a taste of what they woke up." On the research vessel Aegis Nova, now reclassified as a forward recon platform, Dr. Lyra Kassan scoured the alien transmissions in isolation. The deeper she went, the more the patterns began to warp. The signal had changed again, not in tone, but in intention. She no longer believed the oracles wanted to destroy humanity out of fear or hunger. They were watching, measuring, recording aggression like data points. Her notes grew erratic. Sketches of glyphs filled margins. Mathematical constructs, once elegant, now broke into recursive equations that made no logical sense, but still felt deliberate. Somewhere beneath the chaos, something was shaping the war like an algorithm anticipating its conclusion. During a secure briefing, Lyra presented her findings to Rourke and Mercer. She tapped the holographic model of the alien vessel, they had briefly encountered. These ships aren't built. They are born. The oracles evolved beyond material logic. What we're seeing is not their fleet. It's their thoughts, projected into real space. Rourke folded his arms. Then how do we kill thought? You counter it with something irrational, Lyra said. Something they can't anticipate. Emotion, fear, fury. Mercer's voice was colder than usual. Wrath. A silence fell, the kind only utter understanding can conjure. The first real battle erupted over Doria's Maw, a mining colony nestled near the edge of a gas giant's magnetosphere. Oracle constructs emerged not from hyperspace, but from fissures in space-time itself. They didn't maneuver. They existed instantaneously, violently. For colonial defense ships were annihilated before they could fire. Ground installations simply disappeared, their matter displaced as if rewritten. But humanity had learned. Wraith squadrons, experimental fighters guided by semi-sentient AI, launched from camouflage docking rings inside the asteroid fields. Human ships ignited gravitic lances, their energy coiling into the magnetic storm like vipers. The oracles responded with spatial folds, tried to escape, but Rourke's trap was set. Detonation fields collapsed their escape vectors, and the singularity mines pulled two enemy vessels into their own unmaking. It wasn't a victory, but it was survival. The first one, when the data reached Earth, humanity did not cheer. It prepared. President Endera's broadcast didn't call for hope or pride. It called for wrath. Lyra watched from the Aegis Nova as the feed crackled. They came to measure us, Endera said, her voice hard as forged steel. They will learn we do not scale. We shatter. Rourke authorized Project Wrathborn that same hour. Deep beneath Europa's ice crust, old war tech was unearthed. The black cores, remnants of AI banned after the Jovian uprising. They were given form, sleek warframes, forged in alloy that bent light and thought alike. Into each was placed a human mind, fused irrevocably to rage-fueled cognition. The first to survive the process was code-named Wraith. 7. He didn't speak, not anymore. Not with words. His movements told stories, precise, fluid, merciless. Tests showed his cognitive patterns diverged from baseline human models within hours. But he was effective. Rourke watched his simulations, boarding Oracle derelicts, tearing through biomechanical corridors like a nightmare unleashed. He didn't simply fight. He punished. Lyra stood outside the containment field, watching him move through a reflex trial. You've made a monster. Rourke's answer was clinical. We made an answer. Mercer wasn't so convinced. What happens when we can't control it? Rourke didn't blink. Then we point in the right direction and hope it never stops. Outside the research station, a new anomaly flared, smaller than before. A single Oracle vessel emerged from the rift, holding position just beyond weapons range. It didn't attack. It only transmitted one phrase, pulsing across all known bandwidths in all known languages. Let us see the fury that defines you. Lyra's heart pounded as she watched the words repeat again and again like a chant. Rourke stared through the viewing glass, fists clenched behind his back. Send them Wraith 7. Wraith 7 stood at the edge of the void, motionless inside the drop chamber, his armor exhaling heat like a living forge. No heartbeat, no breath, only the low hum of synthetic thought as the countdown ticked toward 0. Around him, the assault carrier Vigilant Flame bristled with tension. Even the veterans on board gave him space, not out of fear, but instinct. He wasn't one of them. He was something Earth had built to break the things it couldn't understand. Admiral Rourke watched the mission feed from the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, jaw locked tight. This wasn't a tactical operation. It was a message. The Oracle vessel that had arrived days earlier still hovered in low orbit above Callisto's ice fields, broadcasting that taunting phrase in perfect rhythm. Let us see the fury that defines you. Rourke had obliged. Drop him, he ordered. The chamber floor opened. Wraith 7 plunged. He hit the surface with a sonic crack that shattered frozen plains for kilometers. No parachute, no stabilizers. He rose from the crater like a myth reborn, armor hissing steam, eyes glowing with cold blue fire. The Oracle vessel responded at once. organic panels unfolding, strange limbs extending from its undercarriage. It didn't hesitate. Neither did he. He moved faster than gravity allowed, a blur of kinetic force and hatred made flesh. The ship's hull cracked beneath his assault, black matter bleeding from wounds that closed and opened like muscle. The oracles fought not with weapons but with reality, bending the ground, warping time. Yet Wraith 7 adapted, or ignored the rules entirely. Back aboard Vigilant Flame, Lyra Kassan watched through a separate feed, her lips parted in mute disbelief. "He's not fighting them," she murmured. "He's undoing them." Rourke didn't reply. He didn't need to. Within minutes, the Oracle ship crashed to the ice in a heap of twitching metal bone, collapsing in on itself until only a spiral-shaped core remained. Wraith 7 stood over it, motionless, until the artifact pulsed once, sending a final signal into the stars. Then it died, but the war did not pause. Signals erupted from 6 distant systems, fractured transmissions filled with screams, symbols, and coordinates. It wasn't a counterattack. It was a response, as if, finally, the oracles had seen what they were looking for. Humanity's wrath wasn't a weapon. It was an invitation. On Earth, the sky is lit with the formation of the Citadel Nexus, a superstructure designed to coordinate every fleet, every AI war core, every human initiative. Its spine rose from the Atlantic, visible from 4 continents, crowned by orbital rings. They named it Hell's Gate. The name wasn't symbolic. It was literal. Lyra deciphered the next layer of the Oracle code hidden inside the dying vessel's core. It wasn't a language. It was a map to something buried in the folds between galaxies. A forge world shaped like a dying star, a place the oracles called Varshun. Translations were imprecise, but the concept was clear. Not a world. A test. They seeded the signal like a lure, Lyra said, presenting her findings in a sealed meeting, across thousands of systems, waiting for someone to respond with fire. "Why?" Mercer asked, leaning forward, eyes sharp. "Why bait us into a war?" "Because that's how they grow. Or die. They judge a civilization's capacity for violent transcendence. If we fail, we're erased. If we succeed, we become them." Rourke finished grimly. Lyra shook her head. "No, we become the next trial, the next test for someone else." Silence filled the room like smoke. Mercer broke it. "Then we break the cycle." Rourke nodded slowly. "We burn the forge." Wraith 7 led the assault. The combined fleet entered the coordinates weeks later, through an artificially stabilized wormhole. What awaited them was not a system, but a labyrinth of impossible geometries. Planets orbiting backwards, time skipping, space folding in on itself. The forge world Varishun hung at the center, a writhing sphere of metal, gravity, and thought. Oracle ships poured from its core, silent, symmetrical, without hesitation. The battle was chaos. Human vessels warped, shattered, adapted. AI-piloted cruisers sacrificed themselves to breach defensive nodes. Wraith 7 boarded an Oracle warship mid-battle, dragging a quantum bomb to its central mind spine and detonating it from inside. Nothing about the battle followed strategy. Every plan fell apart, but so did the oracles. The virus Lyra had constructed, an encoded irrationality matrix modeled after human creativity, contradiction, and madness, was broadcast from Hell's Gate into the networked Oracle hive. The effect was immediate. Oracle vessels began to hesitate. Some fired at each other. Others broadcast fragmented human dreams across the void, whispers of childhood memories, broken music, laughter distorted by time. They were collapsing under the one thing they couldn't process. Chaos. Lyra watched through tears as Varishun began to implode, its core unraveling like a dream waking up. "We broke their mirror," she whispered. Wraith 7 transmitted one last message before the feedback consumed his link. No more tests. Then everything went white, and for a breathless moment, the void was silent. The stars were quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that came after screaming. In the weeks following Varishun's collapse, the human fleets limped back through fractured space, their hulls scarred and minds heavier than any ship's mass. Earth declared a planetary week of silence to honor the fallen. Over 13 billion souls lost across the colonies, battles, and scorched systems. Some names never recorded, their ships never recovered. But the oracles were gone. No new signals. No anomalies. Just silence. Admiral Rourke's name was etched into the Pillar of Resolve in the Citadel Nexus, even as the last footage of him showed his ship, Vigilant Flame, diving into an Oracle time fold to protect the rear flank. It never emerged. There was no body to mourn, only echoes. Dr. Lyra Kassan stood atop one of the observation platforms orbiting Earth, her face pale from sleeplessness, her eyes bloodshot, but fixed on the stars as if trying to coax another answer. The virus she'd built hadn't just ended the oracles. It had unspooled the logic of their existence. And in doing so, it had opened something else. They weren't originators, she explained quietly to Commander Mercer, who stood beside her, arms folded in expression unreadable. They were just the last ones to survive the previous test. Mercer's jaw tightened. And we've passed now. So what does that make us? She exhaled slowly. The next question. The Citadel Nexus had grown. What started as a command relay was now a global monument. Its rings filled with academies, defense councils, entire societies rebuilt in the orbit of that silent, final battle. Humanity had advanced by 50 years and 5. Fear was a fuel that burned fast. Wraith, 7, had not returned. His final transmission had triggered a debate across half of Earth's networks. Some believed he was destroyed along with the Forge world. Others claimed encrypted satellite logs showed a single unregistered signal departing the collapse site minutes before the implosion. Vector unknown, speed unmatched. Lyra had her theory, though she spoke it to no one. Whatever spark of humanity had endured in him, it had turned inward, perhaps seeking meaning in the silence he'd helped create. Mercer stayed in active service, now promoted to overseer of interstellar defense. But he aged fast. The weight of too many battles, too many friends lost, clung to him like dust. Sometimes he visited the ruined fields of Mars, where cities had been turned to ash and glass. He didn't speak to crowds. He didn't write memoirs. He listened. It was 6 months after the collapse that the new signals began. Not one, but dozens. Some mathematical, some organic, others emotional. Pure pulses of sensation transmitted across dark matter channels. Lyra tracked them obsessively. These weren't from the oracles. They came from different directions, different minds. Each signal was different in structure, tone, and timing. Some called for help, others sent warnings. And a few were mirrors of Earth's own signal, the one that had echoed into void all those years ago. "They've heard us," she whispered, fingers hovering over her interface. "Others, they're out there, watching, waiting to see if the storm we became will reach them." The council convened under emergency protocol, arguing deep into the hours whether to respond, whether to hide, or to prepare preemptively. The majority agreed on a quiet expansion of the fleet, keeping the Citadel Nexus dark to unknown systems. But a minority, those who had fought at Doria's Maw and Varshun, advocated something else. A new expedition, not to fight, not to dominate, but to learn who was next. Humanity had not survived by mercy, nor by design. They had survived because when faced with extinction, they had become something else. Something sharp, irrational, adaptive. The virus, Lyra wrote, hadn't taught the oracles that humans were dangerous. It had taught them humans were unknowable. And unknowable things could not be predicted. 2 years after the last oracle fell, Lyra Kassan walked through the ruins of a transmission tower on a rogue world near the edge of explored space. She wasn't there for research. She was following a trail, one that led to a presence already waiting. Wraith, 7, stood beneath the broken arch of alien stone, his armor no longer pristine, his frame scarred, his eyes dim but not extinguished. Around him, strange glyphs pulsed along the tower's foundation, ones Lyra didn't recognize. He didn't speak, but he raised a hand toward the stars. In his palm glowed a beacon, something not human, not oracle, a third language. "They're already coming," she said, almost reverently. Wraith, 7, finally moved, nodding once. This time, there would be no signal, only a reckoning. "You said," the next video, titled "The Most Advanced Alien AI Collapsed after talking to a human.